The wind was biting cold that afternoon, whispering through the nearly empty streets of downtown Chicago, but Daniel didn't move. He sat on that wooden bench outside the old coffee shop, his fingers clenched together, eyes fixed on the corner of the street, like a man waiting for a ghost. The clock above the bookstore across from him had struck 12, then 1, then 2, and still he waited. Passers-by came and went, cars blurred by in streaks of gray and silver, but Daniel didn't notice any of it. He was lost in a storm of thoughts that wouldn't quiet down. Memories of laughter, words said in anger, promises broken. And beneath all that noise was one quiet, painful hope that she might still come. Before we go deeper into this story, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. It had been exactly 3 months since Daniel last saw Emily. 3 months since he had watched her walk away from him on that very same street. They had been together for almost 5 years, through college, first jobs, and 1,000 small battles life threw their way. But sometimes, love doesn't end with a bang. It fades like the last note of a song, leaving behind silence and questions. And when Daniel's temper finally broke during one late-night argument about her job offer in another city, the silence between them turned into a chasm. She had packed her bags the next morning. He told himself not to chase her, not to call, not to beg. He thought maybe space would fix what words couldn't, but every day since she left, he'd felt like a part of him had gone missing. A piece of quiet comfort, of shared glances, of someone who once understood his heart without needing words. So when he heard from an old friend that Emily was back in town visiting her sister, Daniel couldn't stop himself. He texted her, simple and trembling. "Can we talk? I'll wait at our spot." And so he waited. At first he believed she'd come any minute. Then maybe she was late. Then maybe she wasn't coming at all, but still he couldn't leave. The cold bench had become his penance, his altar of hope. Every time a woman in a beige coat turned the corner, his heart leaped. Every time it wasn't her, it broke a little more. Hours passed. The city's rhythm changed. The afternoon sun dipped low, staining the buildings gold, and the world softened into that melancholy stillness before dusk. Daniel was about to stand, finally accepting that she wasn't coming, when something inside him made him look up one more time, and there she was. Across the street, under the faint orange glow of a streetlight, stood Emily. Her hair was tied back, her scarf wrapped loosely around her neck, and her hands trembled as she clutched the edge of her coat. But what froze him in place wasn't her presence. It was her face. She was crying, not loudly, not dramatically, but silently, the kind of crying that came from deep inside, the kind that left a person shaking but determined not to make a sound. The world around him blurred. Cars moved, people walked by, the city breathed. But for Daniel, everything else vanished. There was only her standing there, looking at him as if seeing a memory she wasn't sure was real anymore. He didn't move for a few seconds. Neither did she. It was as if time itself hesitated, waiting for one of them to make the first move. And then, finally, Daniel stood up. The crossing light changed to green, and he stepped forward, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. Each step felt heavier than the last, filled with months of guilt, of love, of words left unsaid. When he reached her side of the street, she looked up. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came. Her eyes were red, her cheeks streaked with tears, and Daniel suddenly realized how fragile she looked, like someone holding herself together with sheer will. He wanted to say, "I'm sorry." He wanted to say, "I missed you." He wanted to ask, "Why are you crying?" But in that moment, words felt useless. So he just stood there, his own eyes stinging, as if afraid that if he spoke, she might disappear again. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Two people caught between what once was and what might still be. Then, without thinking, Emily stepped forward and fell against his chest. Daniel froze, then wrapped his arms around her, feeling her shoulders shake as she cried into his coat. It wasn't the dramatic reunion of movies, no sudden music or speeches. It was quiet, raw, and real. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her tears with her sleeve, trying to compose herself. Daniel could see that she had changed, not just in how she looked, but in her eyes. There was weariness there, and something else too. Maybe forgiveness, maybe sorrow. She whispered something he barely caught. "I didn't think you'd still be here." and he almost laughed through the ache in his throat. "I didn't think I'd ever leave." They stood in silence, the kind that holds more meaning than words ever could. Emily looked away for a moment, watching a car pass by, then said softly that she had come back to clear her things from her sister's place before moving again. Her life was taking her somewhere else. A new city, a new chapter. The weight of those words hit Daniel like a slow punch. He had waited so long for this moment, and now that it was here, he realized it wasn't about getting her back. It was about finding closure, and maybe giving her peace. He told her he was proud of her, that he had been angry before because he was scared, not because he didn't believe in her. She looked up, tears still glistening, and said she never stopped caring. They had just both forgotten how to talk without hurting each other. The wind picked up again, rustling the fallen leaves at their feet. Emily smiled faintly, a sad, beautiful smile, and reached into her coat pocket. She pulled out a small folded note and handed it to him. "Don't open it now," she said softly. "When you're ready." Then she stepped back, 1, 2, 3 steps, and turned away. Daniel didn't follow. He watched her walk down the street until she disappeared into the distance, swallowed by the fading light and the crowd. Only then did he unfold the note with trembling fingers. It was short, just a few lines, written in her familiar handwriting. "Thank you for waiting, for believing there was still something left to save. Even if we can't go back, you taught me what real love feels like. Patient, kind, and brave. Don't wait for me anymore. Go live, the way you told me to once. I'll carry your love quietly. Always." The paper blurred as tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He sat back down on the bench, clutching the note like it was a piece of his heart. He didn't know how long he stayed there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. The sky darkened, the street lights flickered to life, and the city hummed on. But for the first time in months, Daniel didn't feel empty. He felt grateful for the love they had shared, for the pain that had taught him how deeply he could care, and for the quiet goodbye that, in its own way, gave him peace. He knew he wouldn't see her again, but he also knew that some goodbyes weren't endings, they were transformations. Love didn't vanish. It changed shape, found new homes in memories, in lessons, in the strength to move forward. And maybe, he thought, that's what real love does. It stays, even when people part. It lingers in the way you smile when you remember, in the soft ache that reminds you it was real. Daniel stood, tucked the note into his coat pocket, and began to walk. The city lights shimmered around him, and for the first time in a long while, the cold didn't bite as much. He didn't know where he was heading, but it didn't matter. The world was vast again, full of new possibilities, and somewhere deep inside, he knew Emily would be all right too. Sometimes love means holding on, and sometimes it means learning to let go with grace. As he turned the corner, a gentle snow began to fall, soft flakes melting against his skin. Daniel smiled faintly, looked up at the gray sky, and whispered, "Goodbye, Em." And in that quiet moment, it felt like she heard him.